Holy dude. My gosh.
The presentation will be between me and Ola. So we will share slides as we go along, and we will change between us when we speak. This is our new layout. We had a new logo, if that's the right word. So yeah, we're proud of that one. I will go through the organization that we are today, and then we'll have a historical view of groups before, in the past. I'll talk briefly about Norway, so you have an idea about who we are and how the UFO topic is going in our country. And then Ola will talk a little bit about the report archive and photo reports. And then I will mention 4 cases, probably one of my favorites, just so you have an idea what I think is important. And I will just mention Fossdal, not that much, but I will mention it, and a little bit about going forward. So this is the core of our organization, the board members. There's me, and then there's Ola, which is here in the meeting with us. And you have Arnulf. He's been in the organization for a long time. I actually have a 15-year-old younger picture of him in one of the slides coming later up. And then we have Tor Ivar, and we have Jakob. We also have 2 other people who are VARA board members, and we also have someone who is very active in the magazine that we have in publishing and distributing the magazine. So we have other people helping us as well. Myself, I work when I'm not working with UFOs and this topic, my civil work is in construction. So I am a project manager and I work in construction. I'm a project manager and construction manager, and also engineering group leader. So I do different roles in the project management. I've done that for 20 years actually. And I also work as a captain in the army in the reserves. And Ola, you want to present yourself?
Yeah, I work as a senior IT technician. Also worked as a DBA, database administrator. I've been doing that since about late 90s sometime. Yep.
I can also mention that to Ivar, he is one of the people most responsible for our magazine. He does a lot of work and puts a lot of effort into that. So we're very grateful that he came along and joined our organization, because he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to design and computer programs and such. This is our Facebook group. So we have 2,100 members in the Facebook group. Of course, we would want all of these 2,100 people to become paying members. But that's not the case, unfortunately. We have paying members, I think it's about 300, between 200 and 300, I think, something along those lines. So it goes up and down, and we become more members along the year, and yeah. So we're trying to figure out how we can get all of these people to be paying members. But, you know, I guess prior in the old days, when we gave out the magazine, it was more informative, I guess, in one way, because now there's so much information coming in from all sides that I guess some people don't feel the need to be a member, which is a shame, because we would really like more paying members so they can help this effort and get more knowledge out. That's something that we're working on. Here you have an old picture of Heineck and Erling Strand, who has been the project manager for Fossdal for many years. This is our website. It says Norsk UFO Center. We're in the process of changing that to UFO-Norge, but it's a process. And well, when everyone works for free, you have to have the time to make these changes. And also we are on Twitter, or X as it's called now. This is our magazine. This is one of the latest magazine that was given out. We give it out. All the paying members get it in the mail 4 times a year, every quarter. So a good magazine, and it has to do with the current topic, what's going on, and if we have some interesting stories that we got into our report system. We will ask the people reporting, can we print it in the magazine? And maybe they say yes, or maybe they say no. And of course, the best stories are, of course, the ones that are not anonymous. If we're lucky enough to actually have people with their full name and picture, that's not common, but that's the best. It's really good stories when people are not anonymous. And also, we share this magazine with the Swedes. So if you turn it on the other side around, you have the Swede magazine on the back. So yeah, synergy. Okay, Ola, it's you.
Yeah, I think that's the only magazine in the world which is bilingual, I think, which is printed back to back. So I think it's possible for several other European countries to do something like that. So, okay, let's go and dive into the historical background. It's all started in the 1950s, really, with a guy called Torstein Telle. He was a guy very interested in science fiction and all kinds of flight technology and astronomy, space flight, things like that. And he started. He was actually one of the people who founded the Norwegian Interplanetary Society, and this is still existing today. So he was also a member of a helicopter club, and all of these societies were actually collecting sighting reports from the public, as well as saving newspaper clippings and such. So when we get to the 1960s, there are several more local groups or societies being created in the largest cities, like Oslo, Bergen, Stavanger, and Trondheim. And from 1970s, other groups as well. All of these were basically the same, collecting reports and collecting newspaper clippings and evangelizing in the press, like trying to convince the rest of the population that UFOs were real phenomenon. So from I think 1973 or 1974, the groups in Bergen and Trondheim and Oslo joined together to create a national society, Norsk UFO Center with a C. And this group changed name in 1980 to UFO-Norge. And also there's been like dissident groups, and there's been fusion, and yeah, basically it's the same group that has been existing now since 1974. So some of these groups also publish their own magazines and journals, and I think all of these magazines have been scanned and made available at the Archives for the Unexplained. So there's only one commercial magazine left to be scanned, and then all the old magazines have been made available. Hopefully, we can make some of the booklets, not books, but the booklets that's been published in Norway as well. Some of these are in Norwegian, but some of them are also in English. So they should be more interesting, I think, at least historical for people in other countries.
So the next slide is me. So I would just like to give you a little bit of overview about Norway, who we are. And as you can see, we actually have an island called Svalbard, which is 2,000 kilometers up north. So we're actually very close to the Arctic. And but we're only 5.5 million people. And we have 385 kilometers of land. So what I'm trying to say here is that we actually just have 14 people per square kilometer, not meter as it says there, but kilometer. So we have a lot of landmass and we have a few people. So maybe that could be one of the reasons why we maybe don't see as much as maybe other places, because it's a huge landmass. If you compare to Denmark, it's 133 people, and England 438 people, whereas we only have 14. So it's a vast area with few people. And when it comes to the UAP topic, they're often swirling around and being in connection with atomic power plants and atomic weapons, which we have none. Well, at least the weapons I think are good. Maybe we need some atomic power plants now due to global warming, but we don't have it so far. We get in about so far in 2024. We have got about 60 reports. That's 8 a month, which is twice a week. And the same is for 2023. We've got about 100 reports, which is the same, 8 a month, twice a week. And then you maybe 10% of those 100 is a genuine UAP or UFO. There's no big survey done on this. This is just me looking at other reports and scientific investigations that say maybe 10% is a genuine UFO. But then again, 90% might go unreported, which is the same for many countries. So we really don't have any public UAP discussions. It's very low key in Norway. The stigma is alive and well. I will not say that we do a lot of ridicule, but what happens in Norway, if you talk about this, is that people, we're a polite people. So they will pretty much just stare at you like a deer in headlights and pray that you change the subject very quickly. So that's pretty much how it goes. We did actually have a partially UFO investigator in the army in the 1990s, Espen Steffensen. There's actually a documentary on YouTube. There's not about him, but about the UFO topic in Norway. And there's a segment where he talks about it. It's really informative and very positive, where he says that it's very important and the army takes it very serious and so on. So, but after that, well, we've not had a new UFO investigator in the army, as far as we know. And when it comes to the reporting in the media, I would say it's somewhat balanced. I think that sometimes I feel that they're more negative towards the UFO topic and saying they get in experts and the experts say that the universe is vast and you cannot travel from one place to another, and the fastest way of travel is the speed of light, and then that's the end of the story. But however, they don't ridicule it, I would say, as much, and they do have some balanced reporting. I actually contacted the main TV network in Norway, which is NRK, and said that they had to report on the David Grush when he was in Congress, which they did. I'm not saying they did it because I called them, but they did report on it, and they were actually outside of Congress and doing a balanced piece on it, so which was great. These are our politicians, all the people in this picture. I think it's a great picture. Ola.
Yes, our report archive. It's not just the UFO-Norge report archive. This is a lot of the older stuff have been inherited from older groups. So our report archive is consisting of several physical folders. They are deposited at the Archives for the Unexplained in Norrköping, Sweden. And these folders have the paper forms in them. And sometimes just a small note or a letter or something accompanying the folders. So all of these have been scanned, or at least partly scanned, up to circa 1972. The reports from 1972 up until 1990s or something, which is the newest ones there. They have not been scanned. So we have one Microsoft Access database with around 1,600 reports in it, and they are the same reports as are in these physical folders at AFU. We also had at one time, when our website UFO.no was alive, we had a MySQL database there where people could enter their sighting reports, which we have a backup of that database, but it's we don't have anything online at the moment, and we haven't had that for a few years. So currently, people are reporting their sightings through a mail address, which is where we keep them for now. The MySQL database and the Microsoft Access database, they do not have the same identical reports. MySQL database have all the new reports. So this is a headache for us because we would like to have a database available online, but then there are GDPR rules and so on making problems, of course, with having everything publicly available. So it's an unsolved issue for us currently. So on the next slide, we did in collaboration with Vicente Juan Ballester Olmos from Spain. I think in 2006, we used the first 6 months of that year to catalog all the reports which had the film, video, or photographs accompanying them. We ended up with some 700 or 800 reports in total. So this this paper is available from academia.edu. It's in a PDF, or if you want the soft cover, it's available from upr.com for a few euros, I think. So we are also continuing to collaborate with Ballester Olmos's PhotoCut project. So we are continuing to catalog and register new reports which have photographs or video or anything like that. So in 2009, we had quite a spectacular series of photographs which went viral worldwide. So on the next slide, you can see one of those photos. And this was a guy who had his tripod ready. Everything was set up, and he was going to take pictures of this fish farm, processing farm, for advertising purposes. And this was early in the morning. And when this phenomenon appeared in the sky, he was just shooting the pictures because everything was ready for him. And I think one of the reasons why this photograph is quite spectacular, actually, but people believe this was a big part of the sky. So that this phenomenon filled like 20% of the sky, but it didn't, of course. It was very, very small because he was using a telephoto lens at the time. So we got at least, I think, 50 different people photographed or took video film of this phenomenon, both in Sweden and in Norway. And it turned out, of course, within a short time, we had identified that this was a failed rocket test from Russia. And in the next slide, we dedicated our large part of our magazine to this investigation. I also think that James Oberg he did a paper on this thing. Of course, people are still refusing to accept that this was a rocket test. People want to believe that this is a portal and a black hole and a Stargate and all kinds of weird stuff. But we have investigated it and we have made our conclusion. So that stands. And also this kind of thing, this kind of phenomenon has been seen from both Norway and Sweden for several decades when rockets were fired from the Russian aerodrome Plesetsk, I think it was called. But that was was some rocket launch site that was secret at the time. So these spirals were seen in the 70s and 80s and 90s as well, but not with these kind of photos though. Another area that we have tried to investigate as good as possible is the ghost rockets from of 1946. We have searched by keyword, and we also have searched visually every newspaper page from that year. And there were approximately 230 newspapers published in Norway that year. So there were a few pages to check. I think they've covered everything that it was worth finding then. And I think we got 86, found 86 reports in the newspapers for that year. And from the description, we were able to at least explain at least 60 something of them quite easy, because people were at that time there were very few street lights and city lights and so on. So people saw the starry sky all the time, and they reported seeing meteors and all kinds of stuff in the newspapers, of course, because everything was interesting back then. So in Outer Limits magazine, you can read about everything we found from about the ghost rockets. On July 18th, in the middle of the day, two ghost rockets, or two objects, crashed into Lake Mjøsa, which is in the middle of Norway, a little bit north of Oslo. Very deep, large and deep lake. And I think that was the only crash ghost rockets in Norway that year. But in Sweden, I think Klaus mentioned to me that there was at least 10 reports of ghost rockets crashing into lakes. They always crash into lakes. And the day after Lake Mjøsa incident, on the 19th of July, there were 4 different lakes that had a ghost rocket crash into them in a time span of 4 hours. So on the next slide, you will see that this mystery of the ghost rockets are indeed continuing up until today. So in all of these incidents, there are multiple observers. There are objects described as rockets or aircraft, jet planes, whatever, some kind of object. These objects are performing changes in speed, height, and direction, usually doing some kind of maneuvers before they either crash or land on a lake. And these kind of reports we have only found from Norway, Sweden, and Finland. I have at least tried to go through UFO.net, the old website, without finding anything similar. Well, similar, but not exactly the same kind of reports. So if anyone out there have similar reports to this ghost rockets, then we are very interested in finding out, of course. Back to you, Renate.
Thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you some stories from Norway, the ones that I find very interesting. Ole might not agree, but here we are. So of course, there are many stories in Norway, but these are just the ones that I chose to share with you. So this is Mysterious Lights Between Andøya and Bardufoss. In August 1959, Major Skappel, was commander of a Dakota plane, and Ragnar Rygnestad was the navigator. In flight, they were told to take an extra transport mission. Upon landing at Andøya, they learned that their extra mission was to transport the so-called NATO standing group to Kirkenes. The group included a total of 17 generals and admirals. They had been standing outside waiting for the plane to arrive, only to observe a round, luminous object traveling with the plane. The object made a half circle around the airport before disappearing at an alarmingly high speed through a light cloud cover without either sound or track. Major Skappal reported the cloud height might be well over 8,000 feet. After the plane took off again with the occupants at leveling heights, Major Skappalen see possibly the same exact flying object, a large luminous orb, which comes in from behind and up on the starboard side at a respectful distance. Soon the object came on the starboard side of the plane, but still at a respectful distance. Suddenly, another glowing orb appeared above the other with a thin, luminous line between itself and the original, and vice versa again. A third spear appears on the top of the two others in the same way. Suddenly, the top object disappeared, then the middle, and then the third object gone forever. The plane abrupted the original destination and was made to decide to stop over in Bardufoss for further consideration. The captain and navigator had to report to the military police. They agreed that the object had to be 15 to 20 meters in diameter and intelligently maneuvered. If the generals and admirals were interrogated or gave a report is unknown. The episode was kept a military secret for 10 years before it was released to the press. Next one. This is Major Per Gaven who is reporting. From 1958 to 1965, we made at least 150 such observations at this nature. Once or twice a month, we could register these phenomena on the radar. Suddenly, they were there with the same speed as a fighter jet. The next moment, they stood still, then moved away at a speed bordering to the insane. The first time, I only caught one echo. Later, we experienced up to 4 appearing independently of each other. Then the confusion was total. In the end, we had to stop sending up our fighters. When the phenomena occurred, it became too expensive. Besides, we had been making a fool of ourselves in front of the pilots. After all, they came down without having seen anything. The Saab planes also picked them up on their weapons radars. Then it seemed the UFOs were equipped with radar warnings, because at the same moment that they were illuminated, they disappeared. One story stands out. It was an autumn day in the late 1950s. Suddenly I picked up an echo that flew in the same speed as a jet plane. Since it was not on the flight plan, I sent up an F-84G Thunderjet to identify the aircraft. The pilots climbed up and flew above the clouds. On their way back down, one of them discovered a red, large ball. It flew against the direction of the wind at an altitude of about 7,000 feet. The pilot could not identify the object, but he was a fearless fellow and said he would fly through it. Thus, he flew the fighter towards the red ball. The moment he touched it, it disappeared. It also disappeared from radar. When he landed, the whole plane, apart from the plexiglass, was colored red. The plane was dismantled and the plates were sent to the most famous universities and research stations around the world, but no one was able to identify the die. All the radar observations were written down and reported. Today, the reports are classified material in the Defense High Command. The information Gavin provides can be confirmed by several high-ranking officers in the Air Force, including Lieutenant Colonel Bjørn Neråsen. This one is a bit special. It's just a story from a person who is no longer alive, and who's to say it's true or not, but I like the story, so that's why I'll share it, because it's a bit odd and it's very simple and kind of corny. That's why I like it. This is Arnulf Løken, which is a member of a board member. He's just 15 years younger in the picture than he is now. So he's the one who reported it to the news. This is a story from Leif Vinje. So this is not Leif Vinje, but this is Arne Fløken. The wife, Inga Vinje, remembers well how her husband behaved on the day he came home. I was cooking for him, but I noticed that Leif was a bit strange when he came in. He told me what he had experienced, but I had to promise not to tell it any further. Leif Vinje was a driver and had transported goods from one place to another on the south side of Ytterøya, an island in the Trondheimsfjord. With a few sheets of paper from the shop in hand, he gets out and goes back to the van. As he rounds the front of the car, he meets a small figure walking straight towards him. The figure was about 1.2 meters tall and dressed in a bright blue suit. It had a head, hands and feet like us humans, but the figure was smaller and the suit resembled an overall. The two stood about 2 to 3 meters apart. Both stopped abruptly when they spotted each other. According to Vinje, the figure turned around, almost a military turnaround, like when a soldier marches. The figure raised its knees and bent its arms at the elbows, while the upper arm hung almost straight down along the body. The little man in blue is said to have then got into a small vessel which was parked behind the shop. The craft stood on 3 legs, was flat underneath, and curved on top like a hemisphere. The diameter was about 2 meters. According to Leif Vinje, there were 2 figures inside the vessel. They were completely exactly the same, and completely synchronously, they turned their heads and stared at him with intense and piercing eyes. The vessel then flew towards the north. According to Arne Fløken, 1,000 thoughts went through the driver's mind that day. Is it dangerous? Is it radiation? There were many thoughts going through his mind. Vinje had never had anything to do with UFOs or extraterrestrials before. Nevertheless, this became a concern. And then we have the UFO ring, which is probably the most famous UFO artifact or story in Norway. The circle is measured to be 63.4 meters in circumference and with a diameter of 14.4 meters in the north-south direction and 25.6 meters in the east-west direction. The groove that forms the ring itself maintains a fairly even width of 25 to 30 centimeters all the way around, and the depth of the groove is 5 to 10 centimeters. So the picture up here is from 1975. You can see the ring, and this is today. So it's almost the same. 87 people live on Aspevær, a peaceful, idyllic island on the coast of Sunnhordland. Off the beaten track, around 20 meters walk from the snowboat dock, is the plain Åkrevær. This is the Åkrevær plain. On a moonlight autumn night in 1975, the tanker Norskjell was sailing in the area, and the captain and sailors saw a strange light above Aspevær. Torfinn Vestnes was the sailor on board, and he reports, I was on board, I saw the lights. It was dark, and suddenly there was a strong flash of light over the north end of Aspevær. Both the captain and I reacted. It was a flash. It was a very special color of the light, a sharp bluish light, like when you light a Primus. I have never seen anything like it. Another witness, Anne Solvang, in the neighboring island, reported that she had seen 2 unidentified objects in the area. She woke up one night to the electricity meter running, suddenly racing at top speed, and through the window she saw 2 flying objects of bronze-like color that could look like 2 cone-shaped houses standing side by side as they flew over. They hovered and moved with little speed and were visible for 2 to 3 minutes before they disappeared behind the forest. As soon as the object had disappeared, the meter fell back to the normal rate. A 4th witness on the island could tell of a circular and possibly oval object. It was silvery, shiny, and maybe 10 meters or so in diameter. They estimated the height to be around 3 meters at most. Else Tollevik, the lady who had the house that was closest to Åkrevær, around 350 meters away, says she woke up the family's dog growling and being relentless. He didn't want to give up, and he kept barking for a couple of hours. The dog's unusual behavior made her get up and go around the house to check, and everything was fine. But I only checked the front of the house, which was stupid because the UFO ring is on the back. And then the reporter says, "What do you think it was?" And she says, "I've never believed in anything extraterrestrial, but a psychic predicted they might come again. Then I bought curtains." "You bought curtains?" "Yes," says Elisa, "so I wouldn't see them if they came back." The tracks were described as smooth with a curved profile. The depth varied in the range of 6 to 10 centimeters. The grass inside the ring was said at the time to have been pressed hard together and laid in one direction all the way around, as if something had rolled it down. It was said that some smaller stones had apparently been pushed into the ground and that there were scratch marks on some of them. The ground on the side is very stony and hard, and therefore very hard and also hard when wet. The fact that enormous pressure is needed to create such an extensive recess was fully demonstrated when a Sea King helicopter from the Air Force landed in the middle of the ring in connection with the Army's investigation a little later in April. The approximately 8-ton helicopter made no hint of a footprint. Calculations that have been carried out concluded that the object, if it was an object, must have weighed more than 50 tons. And I can also mention that there are no roads leading to this area. Then I will mention Hessdalen. So Hessdalen is pretty famous in Norway, and of course there is another organization, Project Hessdalen, which is led by Erling Strand, and I think there's a new guy there now as well. So I'm just mentioning, we don't have any cooperation or anything going on, but of course we know of them, and we know who they are, and so, but we don't go in each other's tracks. And I know that some people in my organization is actually going up there this weekend, I think, for this some course or observation or something. So I will just read a little bit about Hessdalen. It's not yet clear if the Hessdalen phenomenon is a natural, localized, possibly geophysical origin, or if it shares the same strangeness that the UFO phenomenon is in its sense of the term shows, or if it is characterized both aspects at the same time. In reality, the points in common with the more general UFO UAP phenomenology are very many, considering that the cases of structured flying objects reported in the Hessdalen Valley are not few, even as a clear minority compared to the more usual unstructured light anomalies. This phenomenon appears by manifesting a very similar behavior in many other locations in the world. And then they list up some types of observations that they have. Type 1, which is a strong white or blue flashes lasting anywhere from a fraction of a second to a few seconds. Type 2, yellow or yellow-white balls of light. They have different shapes. They can still stand still for minutes, even hours, and they can move abruptly or fast. Can be several meters in diameter. The ground has been illuminated. Another light with another color might be attached to the main light. Type 3, several lights together. It looks like lights are connected to one object. Type 4, daylight objects. The Hessdalen phenomenon manifests itself as much more than a light phenomenon. During field studies, 10 times more radar detections of objects were recorded compared to visible observations. Hence, these objects are frequently invisible in the optical spectrum, which adds to the mystery. And this is my last slide. Going forward, what we want to work with is the online report database. We want to have a list of reports from pilots. We want to educate, spread information, getting the right people involved, scientists, politicians, lawmakers, and universities, and reporters, and etc. Trying to focus on why this is important to disclose, also for Norway and Scandinavia, and trying to get public funding, getting the right media time coverage, and working with collaboration with other UAP and UFO groups. So that's it. Thank you.